Are we live? Are we live? Looks like, I think we are live. I'm just going to check on my laptop right here. And we're live. Welcome in, everybody, to Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky, joining you from my home studio right here in the hustling, bustling metropolis of Ewing, New Jersey. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky. Thank you again for joining us on an off day, a little mailbag Monday, a live Q&A that we're going to be doing here. I said that we should probably do like a little mailbag Monday every Monday that the Devils don't have a home game or sorry, any game period, just to really get a consistent show on the schedule there, and we're also going to start introducing more guests as well on the show. So we're going to get all of that lined up this week. But once again, we are live, and I said that I was going to lead off the show with the latest that I'm hearing on the Jacob Markstrom front. See a lot of people in the comments here already. What's up, Nico? What's up, Dime Season? What's up, damn it, Evaldi? So let's get right into the Jacob Markstrom stuff, right? So obviously, as you guys know, Sheldon Keefe mentioned the other day, after sustaining an injury against the Columbus Blue Jackets, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks here. I spoke to someone today, and I teased it over the past number of days that I would, try to get more to the bottom of what exactly is going on with both this injury and the contract and the implications there on the contract. And basically, what this person told me was that there is no significant pause in the Markstrom talk, in the Markstrom contract talks because of this injury, right? So they stressed that you don't talk every day anyway, but there has been no true pause in the negotiations, and it's just maybe a breather, as Fitzgerald kind of confirmed in an interview on the radio the other day. But yeah, no, again, nothing has changed because they stress this as being a very short-term issue that Markstrom's dealing with. There's no real urgency right now to get this deal done, and that's because there's no specific deadline to get it done. But again, the person that I spoke with said that they were optimistic. They stressed that they were optimistic, that they believe that Jacob Markstrom will re-sign with the New Jersey Devils at some point this year. And and they also added, by the way, I should mention this. They added that the injury seems very minor and is actually the reason he's out is mostly precautionary reasons early on, because it's early on in the season. So I want you guys to let me know in the comments, what do you think about Jacob Markstrom potentially re-signing with the Devils? I think again, it's another thing that Fitzgerald mentioned on the radio the other day, but the two sides right now have kind of different ideas of what they want the contract to look like. I think Markstrom's side is maybe pushing a little bit more for term, and they see the cap spiking, so they and yeah, Rick Roma says too that Frank Saravelli said Markstrom is asking for 4 years at $5 million per. That's that term that I mentioned there. That's a little bit for somebody that's an Asian goalie and a guy that says it's a guy that has at the beginning of the season at least looked a little shaky, but he's been known to have some cold starts here in his career. I think the one thing about Markstrom that I guess maybe gives me a little optimism that his game will age better than most other goalies that you hand a lot of money to, is he didn't play that much when he didn't get as many reps as, say, a Vasilevsky did early on in his NHL career. So maybe that makes his game age a little better. But I'm with some of the commenters here in that I don't know that you need a 35 plus year old goalie locked up, two 35 plus year old goalies locked up long term. I'll shout out Christopher's answer here, because I get it. And I understand the Devils' side of this too. Or sorry, what would be Markstrom's camp side of this too is that the Devils, they finally seem like they have a little bit of goalie stability for the first time in seemingly years, right? So why would you want to break that up? And if this is a tandem that can get you on a deep run, maybe you roll with this. But I also don't know. At some point, you're going to have to hand the reins over to Yegorov or maybe Dawes. I don't know. So we'll have to see what happens there. But interested to hear what you guys have to say. But we're off. Release the hounds. Ask any question you guys want, and we'll try to answer that. We're gonna go up and scroll up in the comments here to see if I missed any. Killabush, okay, the great Killabush. I love this guy on Twitter. He's a great Twitter follow. He says, "Who sits when Dadanov is back?" That's the $1 million question here right now, man. I'll tell you what. You know, it's gonna get interesting here because I think as it stands right now, that top six, Devils fans can say what you want about Andre Palat, and I would agree with a lot of the critiques there. This is a $6 million player that you're really only getting the little things out of. And then the playoff production is good, but and he's a player that comes alive in the playoffs. But why would you pay someone $6 million for that? You know what I mean? It just seems like a little overpay. Obviously, it seemed that contract is not aging particularly well. But with the top six rolling the way that it has been, I just don't know how you can really break that up right now. So the to answer your question, um, gosh, is it because it can't it would have to be one of the wings. It would have to be one of the probably a fourth line wing. So I mean, do you see? I can't see you sitting like Nason, right? Like you can't sit him. You can't. Hallinen's already taken the back seat here of of Nason coming back. So I'm just gonna check the lines from practice today to really give this thought experiment a little more. Just to visualize it a little more. Um, Man, that's going to be a tough decision. I think that it would have to be Dadanov is the one that would have to sit when he gets back, and they'll just have to do it like Sheldon Keefe's been a big matchup by matchup kind of case by case lineup guy, especially with the power play. Maybe that's going to be the case with Dadanov when he comes back because I think they like the way that Andre Palat's looked with Brat and Jack, and I mentioned on the streams here. I think that there's some value there. Again, I think that Palat on the forecheck has been really good, and it's created a lot of opportunities for Jack and Brat. But how sustainable is that long term? I don't know. So it's gonna be an interesting question. I like the question though there, Killabush. Nico says Monday Night Novo and Raw for B. LOL. There you go, Nico. Hopefully you're studying for your exams as well. Christopher. Okay, yeah, we're getting back into the Markstrom commentary. I'll read some of these. Yeah, Christopher says better be short term if they're going to resign him. Yeah, no, I can see why that would be the want there, especially for fans who don't want to see this tandem and want to get Yegorov at some point in this lineup. Rick Roma, I already mentioned this on the stream, but yeah, Sarabelli says that asking for 4 years at $5 million per. Fitz can't do that. I don't disagree with your logic there. Again, it's just you know, you're with these longer term contracts, you're also banking on the fact that these goalies are going to retire. Allen I'm almost certain is going to retire before his contract is up, and that's like the Brad Marchand model too, right? It's like you want to negotiate a longer term deal so you can get the AAV down. Well, with Markstrom, he might just end up playing that long. I don't know. So we'll see. So I don't know if you exactly want that on your books for that long, even with the cap spike. Dime Season says if Markstrom resigns anything longer than 2 years, I can't say I'll be very happy, and I wouldn't blame you there, Dime Season, as I just mentioned. Again, David Evaldi. Personally, I think it's a mistake. I'd rather go with Jake Allen and let someone from Utica get a shot at backup. There's no doubt that Jake Allen has been a revelation for the Devils ever since they traded for him just a number of years ago. I'm eager to see how he does with this opportunity over the next 2 weeks. It's off to an awesome start. Allen's never been one to really have that sort of 1A chance in his career. He's always been kind of a 1B guy. So I'm eager to see what he could do with an opportunity like that. But we will just have to see how that plays out. Let's see. Nico says, I am so sad that I cannot say Jack Hughes, Nico Heischer, Brat, Dawson Mercer, and Connor Browns have more goals than the entire Rangers combined on home ice. I guess the Rangers scored. I'm not tuning in, obviously, but that's man, that was a bad streak, huh? That was again, historically bad, almost historically bad. Josh L. I think that's Josh Langer, so shout out to Josh. Says if we get to 28-29 and the tandem is Markstrom Allen, I would be very shocked. I would be very shocked as well. Nico says Jack still has that title though. I guess you're probably referring to the Rangers thing. Yeah, there you go. Kev Stew 18 says, "I like your plushie dumpster fire over there." Yeah, this is my girlfriend Gabby's plushie dumpster fire. It's kind of like it's like a representation of our lives being kind of a dumpster fire at times, but it's a nice little omen because if the Devils are ever go through a little cold streak this year, we got to break this bad boy out. I think I broke it out for the Tampa Bay Lightning game because I thought that the comment section was going to be a dumpster fire if they didn't win that one, but they did, so I didn't have to break them out all the way. But yeah, I got that. I got the SpongeBob Bubble Bowl halftime show painting back there. I have actually like a Nickelodeon like slime blimp, like the little looks like a little it's like a foam football kind of thing. I got that at the Super Bowl, so that's pretty cool. I also have there's like a Devils thing I have here too that my former boss that retired, Kevin Manahan, he gave me this. Shout out to him. It is a game program from the 1997 Eastern Conference quarterfinals between the Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm trying to get the light glare out of that. And there's a ticket in there too for home game, round one, game one. It was section 211, row 17, seat 10. And it was a $50 ticket. So there you go. Some Devil stuff there. We're gonna get some more Devilsy kind of stuff in the background. I know that some people have been requesting that, but appreciate the shout out, Kev Stu. Dan says, any update on Casey or Lamico? I'll tell you what, Dan. If you read my newsletter that I posted today, I had an update on Casey. Basically the word on Casey right now is that he, first of all, nobody is concerned that this is a serious injury for him. And in fact, it's actually similar to the Markstrom update that I had earlier in the show, in that he's sitting right now mostly because of early season kind of precautionary. And I don't even know if maybe precautionary is not the right word to describe this Casey one. But he is skating now. That's optimistic for him. Markstrom's also skating too, so which is more optimistic signs. I don't have an update on Lamico. I will try to get one for you guys this week. But they're definitely progressing positively. That's for sure. We're gonna go to dime season. Or sorry, we missed one here. Greg Maltzman, what really happened with Erica Wachter and Bill Spalding? Was it about money? I don't really know the answer to that question. To tell you the truth, Greg, I do not know the answer to that, so I will not pretend that I do. Dime season says, I know I brought this up on prior episode, but contracts predictions for Nico, I have a feeling if/when he resigns with the Devils, we may be looking at an $11.5 million AAV. It's going to have to be in that range times because the contracts are just getting bigger and bigger. What I do know is a couple things. One, Nico loves it in New Jersey. That's first and foremost. He obviously, dons. There's a reason that the C is stitched on his sweater. But at some point, I think Nico wants to break through, but Nico's main goal is winning a cup in New Jersey. So I think that he's going to be as determined as possible to stay in New Jersey. That's going to be his number one mission is staying here long term with the Devils. But at some point, a negotiation is going to have to happen. He's not thinking about it. I actually asked him that question earlier in training camp, I believe. So he's not giving it any thought. At least he says he's not. It's one of those things that the Devils can start negotiating with him next July, I think. So I think that's one of the more underrated storylines, though, is that before everyone always talks about Quinn, and we're gonna have to get him on the books as well, and there's money going out as well, but a lot of these players are going to command a decent pay raise. So let's just hope that cap for Devils fans' sake, let's hope that cap just keeps on climbing because the payday on some of these great value contracts that they have right now is going to come at some point. Let's see. Nico says $11 million range for Nico. Yeah, I think it probably will creep over 11 million. And that's just a complete blind guess, but I'm more with dime season on that one just because he's such an underrated player. And you might seriously like we could be talking about this guy getting significant Selke votes, if not winning the award outright. Before that time frame, so that's certainly going to factor into the negotiations. He's a Selke level forward. So let's see. Dime Season says, also, I've been thinking and wanted to get your opinion on this. I don't think the Devils have a crazy deadline. We have prospects coming up, Lenny, Shane, and Grits, so I don't know if we get a top 6 wing. See, I'm going to push back on that Dime Season. I think the reason that they had. They do have a pretty good pipeline of guys coming up and guys on the wing. I agree with you there, but what is where's the fit for a guy like Seamus Casey on this team? You know, you have the right side seemingly shored up. Sure, you can make like a okay, Dougie's going to leave at some point argument, and that then you would be right. But they also have some insurance there, and they have other guys coming up. Like it just and in defense in general, they have Salayev coming up. They have a bunch of guys coming up on the blue line there. So I just wonder, and these are all pretty young, prominent names that people talk about. So I just wonder if we start to see those chips pushed in a little bit this deadline. And that's why I've been predicting all along that the Devils are going to have a big splashy deadline. Um, it's based pretty much just on gut feeling. Not no real reporting there, besides the fact, beyond the fact that Dan McKinnon, the assistant GM of the Devils, said on this show that they know that they have changes they need to make potentially in this lineup, that they're not 100% satisfied with this lineup yet. And I'm paraphrasing there, but this is I think that the solution to that is going to be a big splashy move for a scoring winger. You got to get Jack a scoring winger, and I've talked to people across that building that say the same sentiment. Not necessarily people that have, that are making those personnel decisions, I should say. But there's definitely a sentiment in that building that Jack needs a top six scoring, bona fide scoring winger. Even heck, man, even if you could get him like a Jared McCann, like that would be a good fit, I think. Let's see. Rick Roma, I know he's small, but do you think Xavier Perrant ever gets a look? I like his game. Yeah, I like his game too, but I just don't see the real fit for him. I mean, we're talking here and trying to parse through exactly when Dadonov's going to get a look here, but so I don't think I wouldn't buy any Xavier Perrant jerseys quite yet. Let's see. Dan says it won't be an issue. Someone else will be hurt by then. Let's see. Damn it, Evaldi says, wasn't Dadonov brought in to play with Grits? I think he's, definitely brought in. I don't know if he's necessarily brought in to play with Grits rather than he was brought in to, first of all, I think they like the player. And there's, that's evidenced by the fact that they immediately put him on the first line with Jack and Nico, or Jack and Nico, Jack and Brett. But there's no you can't scoff at the fact that he's been helping Gritsuk with just being a Russian player, a fellow countryman to help him ease in that process. So they got him at cheap, so that's pretty good bargain there. Shark Week, my man, Shark Week. Again, I'm gonna text you after the Shark Week, and we're gonna try to plan out going to the Fat Cactus in New Brunswick. Great Mexican spot in New Brunswick. Again. Shark Week says, like Kovacevic, the depth is good enough to hold off bringing Dadonov back. Yeah, no, that's the point that I made. I think that, heck, like at some point, Dadonov is probably going to be the one to sit once he gets back. So that's I don't know. Maggie says, I gotta say, having so much depth that our biggest issue is who do we sit down when everyone is healthy is so refreshing. I remember the days when our issues was simply a lack of talent. Yeah, those are kind of pre-Ryan days. I don't really like of course like I watched some Devils back then, but they were obviously never exciting because it was a grueling 10-year rebuild that seemed like it would never end. Aside from that kind of fluky 2019 season. Or what did they go to the playoffs? 2018, the Taylor Hall crazy year. But you're right, Maggie. No, the fact that we're talking about this instead of talking about the alternative is certainly a refreshing sign for Devils fans. Dime Season, who first says hi at Shark Week, so they're exchanging pleasantries. Dime Season says, when Allen retires, I really hope we can bring him back as a coach of some sorts or just keep him in the org. I think he'd be an amazing addition in that way. I'll tell you what, Dimes, I have a story coming out that I just actually started working on today. I talked at length with Jake Allen, kind of about that. We didn't really touch on the post-career stuff, but I think that right away he's going to probably have a job lined up at Sportsnet, or if not, have a bidding war of all these companies trying to look for him, because he's just such a great analyst and one of the more refreshing voices to talk to in that locker room, because he my gosh, man, he's like the voice of reason almost. Him and Brendan Dillon have been a delight to talk to. Killabush says, thanks, Novo. I see it being Gritsuit just because It's what coaches do. I can hear it now. He needs to sit for a few and get used to watching, learning from Breland in the press box, yada yada. Yeah, that does seem like a Devils-esque kind of quote. I could see that. I could totally see that if Lindy was the coach, but I don't know. I mean, look, I know that the organization is very bullish on Gritsuk, and I'm just going to pull up some of his numbers here as well as we're talking. I know the organization has definitely been bullish about him, and the start he's had a bit of a quiet past couple of games, I would say. But the line fit there with Brown and Glass, I think, has been better than a lot of people thought. The what I heard all throughout the preseason was that they want this guy this year within a couple of months to elevate into that top six. I don't know if we're necessarily seeing like we're seeing bits and pieces of glimpses of that so far. Look no further than the couple of assists that he had to Connor Brown in that Tampa Bay Lightning win. Um, and then, as I mentioned a bunch of times on last stream, I saw a really promising back check that he had that just completely thwarted Leon Draisaitl. Again, one of the best players in the world off his tracks on the Devils were actually on the power play, and he was able to back check and stop Draisaitl there. But plays like that, and again, him being just a little more physical, a little more sizey, and a little bit more. He's not afraid of defending. I think you like to see that, but certainly it's going to be a conversation. At some point. I don't know that I see it because I've just had so many people tell me about how bullish they are about Gritsuk. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Husky Unchained says Maggie loved the depth this year. Yeah, it's hard not to. Great. I mean, look, these offseason moves are just aging really well. Michael Pastor says, "What are the Devils trading for Jared McCann this year?" As I just mentioned, Jared McCann. I think that'd be a really good addition. I don't even know what I hate trades because I hate mock trades, especially like on the spot mock trades, because I feel like you never really know. Like you think, oh, a player's going to go for like this package, but then it ends up like oh, it's gonna take a prospect and a first round pick and blah 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 blah, and then it ends up just being a prospect. Like I feel like the Markstrom trade was kind of that, and then even like the Timo return. I remember being like surprised at how small the Timo return was at the time because I thought that they could get I thought that they would have to give a lot more because teams were vying for Timo. There was I mean, heck, dude, there was a point where Timo was the Hurricanes were pushing hard to get Timo. That's all I got to say there. But obviously ends up in Jersey and signs that big extension, and he's off to a good start this season. Michael Pastor adds, Paul Cutter has been very disappointing. What's going on with him? Um, I think you see his line mates, and that's not to say they're not I don't think they've been bad. I think Glendening's actually been really a very pleasant surprise, but there's not exactly much offense there. I think that Cotter's an interesting cat because he's a gritty player that can be defensive and kind of two-way, and the two-way comes in almost these surprising spurts, right, where he shows off a lot more skill than you would think a player like Cotter would have. So I think we'll probably see him heated up a little bit once Stefan Nason's on his line, and that should come on Wednesday against the Wild. That's my prediction there. Balthazar Isra says, "Hi Ryan, any news on when Mara will fire Bowen or Dable?" Dable apparently said today that they're keeping Bowen, so that. But my theory there is that Dable's keeping Bowen because if Bowen's gone, then all the pressure goes on Dable as if it already should. If I were still in that beat, the pressure would still be on Dayball very hard because that guy I think has just lost the room. Let's see. Balthazar Ezra again. I need the Devils to be insanely good this year, or my mental health won't survive. I see. Yeah, I think a lot of Giants and Jets fans would share that sentiment. Shark Week says, "Give me your best Quinn Hughes trade scenario and package Ryan." Oh man, that's a good one. Oh, again, I hate these on the spot trades because I always feel like I'm gonna like either grossly overestimate or underestimate the value. But let's go ahead and do it anyway. And you guys can just tell me. You can rip me if I'm wrong or if I'm right. I'm gonna go with it's gonna. So it's gonna be one of the big like if it happens this year, especially, it's gonna be one of the big contracts, right? It's gonna be you throw in Dougie, okay? And I don't even know if any of the math is mathing here, but you guys will just have to bear with me there. You're throwing in Dougie. You're throwing in You're throwing in Salayev. Um, you're throwing in maybe another prospect or two. Like, do you? I don't know. I don't know. Like, do you throw in like a LeChance? Like, because people have been pumping his tires a little bit. Like maybe you throw in him. I don't know. Like, it'll be like Quinn is a really good player, and the Canucks, like if they trade him, they're not going to give him up for nothing. But also, if they decide to trade him, they'll probably know that they have no leverage. So it's a interesting. I don't know if with what direction the value is going to go to. Is it going to go good? Is it going to go bad? It could go either which way. But I'm going to go with it's going to be something in the range of like Dougie plus a Salayev type, top type of prospect, maybe a draft pick or two, and maybe another prospect. But I feel like that's also maybe a gross estimation. It could be an overestimation, could be underestimation. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a pretty hefty return if they're going to get him via trade. Nico says, I like how Palat has been playing good. It could really add more value when we trade him. You had me in the first half, man. Here I thought you were just giving some good praise to Palat. I'll say this. I'll have. I heard something interesting the other day about Palat and his trade stuff. I was always gonna save that for my next newsletter, just because it's kind of evergreen. I'm gonna save that for the next newsletter. So subscribe to the newsletter. It's in the. It's in my. I tweeted out the link today. Um, so we will. So subscribe to that, and the next newsletter, which comes out next Monday, you will see. But I promise you, I'm not. It's not like some major tease. It's just something that I heard from someone that was kind of interesting about Palat. This isn't like trade talks are imminent or anything like that. But we'll get to that at some point. Shout at the Devils, Daniel Amoya, the host of Shout at the Devils. The Devils beat is just going to YouTube this year. I love to see it. Daniel says if Darth Vader played hockey, what would his position and archetype be? Enforcer, maybe. No, I think. Well, I think Darth Vader's archetype is like a Scott Stevens, right? And him bringing up Darth Vader, it's a little inside joke from the press box that I won't get into, but it's it's pretty good. Um, let's see. Tim F says, "Thanks for these. Great to have coverage back." Tim F, it's great to be back. I'll tell you what, I really missed covering the Devils, and it's been very, very fun to talk about the Devils. I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I'm very happy coming into the rink every day. Rick Roma says, I know everyone is clamoring for a scoring winger, but I'd be more interested in the 3C. Center depth isn't great, and we can't punt the season if Jack goes down again. Malkin, maybe. Look, I understand that, and I understand the want to have Cody Glass maybe on the fourth line, and that's not a knock on Cody Glass. Cody Glass has been awesome defensively this season. He's been excellent. Like the fact that he's locking up Draisaitl the other day. Is just such a positive sign. It reminded me actually of like 2 years ago when the Devils were starting to get really hot, and like I forget who it was that just locked down McDavid. I think it was like John Marino, so it was obviously way different position in a defenseman. But Glass had like that type of performance against McDavid, or not McDavid, against Draisaitl the other day. Again, one of the best players in the world. So I'm not against having him on that kind of checking line for the Devils, because you have some offense. I like the way that third line's constructed, because you have some offensive pop in in Connor Brown, like who's been a revelation offensively this year, as well as on the defensive side of the ice. But you also have, Gritsuk is going to start scoring at some point, and he's already started to dish the puck as well pretty nicely. So I like the way that line is constructed, and I think internally the Devils are pretty excited about having Cody Glass as the third center. I reported early on in training camp that the Devils, because I always know that third center was going to be like a want for them, but they were always pretty satisfied with having Glass there. So I get the want to have another 3C in the lineup and shore up that center depth. But I just really like the way that third line is clicking right now, and that could change, but and maybe they do go target I think a Ryan O'Reilly. Like I don't even know how he's playing this season. I know he's old, but I think that would be an interesting get for them. He's been my dream ad for them for years, but maybe you stick him there. I don't know. Um, I just think they like Glass. That's all. I'm gonna finish it off by that. Shout out the Devils says favorite Star Wars character. Favorite Star Wars character. I like Han Solo, baby. Okay, I like Han Solo. See, damn it, Evaldi says, speaking of Nico contracts, does McDavid signing at a massive discount still affect the value of future expiring contracts since Kaprizov got his massive 17 million AAV deal. I don't know that I think everyone kind of looks at the McDavid, and I think I've talked to like agents about this too. I think they look at the McDavid thing as like a separate situation, a separate category of contract. I don't think it's going to really affect the market all too much. I think when you look at Nico, like you kind of look at maybe, oh man, what's a good example? Like you look at these other two-way guys, right? You look at a Barkov. You look at maybe like you look at what Marner's deal is maybe, and as comparables. Obviously, Marner's put up a bunch more 100-point seasons, and that's fine. Um, but and I'm not saying he's gonna get that. What did Marner sign for? Someone can tell me in the chat if but I'm gonna look this up. Um, Marner AAV. 12 million. Yeah, so no, it's right around that range. It's right around the range that we predicted before in that kind of 11 sort of million deal, but we'll see. Okay, Husky Unchained. Thoughts on the article posted on New Jersey Hockey Now by Zach Berman targeting Tage. The article talks about how Fitz should go all in on acquiring Tage if he becomes available. Look, first of all, shout out Zach Berman, my guy from training camp. And as far as Tage Thompson goes, look, I said, I think I wrote it a number of months ago that Tage Thompson would be an intriguing ad for this top six. Just such a sizey and good player who can score it and dish it a little bit too. I think I even had him pretty high in my like heart voting several years ago in that 22-23 season when Buffalo almost made the playoffs. He's obviously a really good player, and he's a player that's becoming frustrated in Buffalo, as it appears that he's becoming frustrated in Buffalo. If Fitzgerald can get him at the right price, absolutely go get him. But if he wants to save all of his chips for a different sort of acquisition, whether that be a pure scoring wing or Quinn, then maybe you save it for those, because I think those just maybe elevate you a little bit more. That's not a knock on Tage Thompson. I think Tage Thompson's a really good player, so maybe you go add him. Josh Langer says, I think I speak for everyone when I think Ryan should donate $1 million to Daniel Amoa immediately. If only I made that kind of money, Jack or Josh. Why did I say Jack? I just saw someone type Jack in the comments, so I said Jack, even though your name is Josh, and I know you very well, and you're a good guy. Damn it, Uvaldi says Dougie, a first, a prospect, and Palat, and a $1,000 Tim Hortons gift card. Good trade proposal. I think the Devils would be very very happy about that if that were the return, because that would get them kind of out of their the two not albatross, because Dougie has some value and Palat also has some value, albeit not for that contract. But I think they'd be very happy if they can get Quinn from that, just giving up a prospect and a first round pick, basically, because I think the other players they pretty much just have replacements for. So we'll see about that. Okay, last couple of questions here, and then we'll wrap up the show. Dime season, I believe a top 3, if not top 2, move of GM Tom Fitzgerald's tenure has been the signing of Brett Pesce. He deserves all the flowers. Not only does he put his body on the line for us, he has helped Luke. There's no question, Dimes. I think that's an interesting article idea this year, maybe, that I'll probably try to dive into. But ranking the Fitzgerald moves, the Pesce one has to be up there. Re-signing Siegenthaler has to be up there. Pesce, as you mentioned, man, putting his body on the line. The example I give over and over again, but I think it just describes him so well, is that he's part of the reason that this penalty kill has been so successful this year. And the example is him blocking a shot with his kidney on the penalty kill in Game 1 versus Carolina. That just goes to show the kind of player that he is, and he's always making diving efforts. He has, and even offensively, he had that play to Jack the other day, that nice assist to Jack. But defensively, that's where he shines, obviously, and he's been one of the key cogs in Brad Shaw's new penalty kill system here. Let's see, dime season, develop into a solid defensive game. I'm assuming you're talking about Pesce, probably, maybe someone else, but Pesce's always been a really good defensive-minded defenseman. Tyler Seba says, was there something about the Devils? Was there something with the Devils that made you want to come back? after covering the Giants. Um, there's always, I'll say this, there was always more hope on the Devils. Like that it was, first of all, it was the commute for me. Again, I mentioned at the top here that I'm in the hustling, bustling metropolis of Ewing, New Jersey, which is as what some people would describe as South Jersey. I say it's Central Jersey, but I know a lot of you people don't think that that's a real thing. Um, so the drive was one thing because as you see, like on the Jersey's Turnpike, like that extra 10 minutes, that or not 10 minutes, that extra however many miles it is to East Rutherford, it adds like 30 minutes to the trip from Prudential Center. So I just hated that. I grew to kind of dread that drive every day. And again, it's just more there things are more optimistic in Devil's Land. So there's it's more of an intriguing story to cover. Um, the access is better than it was at Giants. Yeah, that's all. That's where I'll leave it. Yeah, but definitely was excited to. It was kind of like a little collaborative decision between me and my boss. It's funny, like I kind of I heard maybe a rumor or two that the bosses would potentially move me back to Devils, and then I almost like beat them to the punch, so to speak, and came back with that proposal, and things have been great ever since. So and I know that somebody had asked. I think it was Cranman, who's always active in the chat. He asked about the game stories this year and wanted me to touch on why there hasn't been many written game stories at the end of stories or at the end of games. The fact of the matter is that they're just not doing well. Like when we would post them, they just wouldn't do well, and it was almost we're better served uh, spending our time in the press box preparing notes so that we can give you the best post game show possible. We're trying to grow this sucker. This speaking of the Devils, which I hope you guys like and subscribe to. Um, into something great so that this could be a fun little way for you guys to get to get as close to the team as possible. Throw me question suggestions. I've been saying that for so many times, and I feel like I've only gotten one or two question suggestions. So if you guys have anything you want to hear from the team or anything like that, anything you want me to try to uncover, I'll try my darndest. But certainly, we more of the focus has been going on the stream this year. But that's not to take away from our written content at all. We still have a lot of great written content on the site. We just launched the newsletter. Um, and what doing this stream allows me to do this year and not and kind of going away from game coverage is it allows me to dive deeper into some of these things. So you'll start seeing longer articles as the season goes on. As I mentioned, I'm working on something on Jake Allen right now and his rise. Um, and an interesting anecdote that I learned about him recently. And beyond that, the just the reporting that I'm able to dive into. I had a long report on Gritsuk, I think like maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago now, just about his potential rise. I got Sergey Brilliant to talk about him. I got multiple sources across the league to talk about him and his potential rise into the top six, how quickly that might come. Um, and then we're really diving into this. I mean, the other day broke the news that Corey Schneider and Mike Rupp are going to be coming to MSG Network. So I've been able to do a lot more. To give you a long summary on this long and winding answer. Um, I've been able to do a lot more now that we, have gotten kind of away from game coverage, and the fact of the matter is, it just was a business decision that it just wasn't working. Um, let's see. Dime Season says, what players do we imagine available at the deadline? I have to think Rust and Raquel out of the Pens, but who else? Maybe some older Ducks forwards. Yeah, maybe Ducks are an interesting team to look at. San Jose is another interesting one to look at just because they've had such a crappy start to the season. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to, start selling off pieces, but they certainly have been great to start the year here too. So maybe, I don't even know who you poach away because I don't know that they would necessarily blow it up. The names that I'm looking at, though, the names that I'm honing in on, I'm honing in on Jared McCann, who I think they had interest in this offseason. And I think that you have to look at like you mentioned some of the other rebuilding teams. Someone mentioned Tage Thompson. I think that might be a name that might if it comes free, if he comes free, then maybe you look to him. Vancouver's really good right now. They look good. At least I saw they're 4-2. So I don't know that Quinn's going to necessarily become available. So maybe you push those chips in for a top six wing and you go get Quinn in free agency in a couple of years. Dime season, I think the real reason. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Uh, Mia says that not a Devils contract or gameplay question, but who do you think was the best dressed on the red carpet for the home opener? I didn't really look at a lot of the outfits to tell you the truth, but I'd say Timo was consistently the best dressed Devil. I know Nichols is going to give me some slack for that because he's also said Timo on the radio the other day. Um, let's see, Dime Season. I think the real reason you came back to the Devils is because you missed all of us. Dime Season, you could not be more right. Um, Damn it, Evaldi. They're all trying to theorize why I came back. You can tell the truth. You just hated covering New York team that lived in New Jersey. Yeah, that's right. They should be called the New Jersey Giants. Josh L says, gonna need you to investigate whether the affiliate for the new Trenton ECHL team. Um, President said they'll announce it in the spring. NJD agreement ends this season. I heard someone say that they think it's going to end up being. I forget. Oh man, someone told me that they think it'll either. I want to say they said Colorado or or Utah, but oh my gosh, how great would it be if it was the Devils? I would go to every game. I am 5 minutes away from that Cure Auto Insurance Arena, so that would be awesome. Um, let's see. Damn it, Evaldi. And this is gonna be the last question we take, guys. Damn it, Evaldi says, can we get one on Marty and how his transition to the business side of the Devils has been? Yeah, I did a story on Marty a couple of years ago, but I would definitely love to do another deep dive on that because he's just kind of risen up the ranks since then. So that might be an interesting deep dive. Love the story suggestion there. Damn it, Evaldi. And that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to Speaking of the Devils. If you guys could again, I know you guys were great about this last time. You could share that link on Twitter and or X or whatever social media platform you use, and encourage people to like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're going live again tomorrow and the next day, so we're gonna be going live 3 days, or a bunch of days this week. Um, and just doing the post game live thing, and I'm going to try to get more guests on as well. We're going to start to get the ball rolling and have more consistent days, like the Mailbag Monday, with we don't have a Monday game, and a weekly guest spot if we can do that. But have a great day, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow night after the Devils. And this will be right after because I'm not going to the game, so this will be right after the Devils take on the Toronto Maple Leafs and look for their first 5-game winning streak in 1,000+ days for Ryan Novozinsky at my home studio in Ewing, New Jersey. Have a great day.